if I look to develop a relationship with someone who's on social, who uses my product or service and has an authentic connection and enjoys using it, truthfully,
before we get started, I want to send a shout out to the ladies of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, the Pi Iota Omega chapter last Wednesday. So see, we come and we do work and then we stop work to do the podcast and then we go back to work. Well, yeah, last Wednesday, after we did the podcast, after we went back to work, I was able to participate on an entrepreneurship panel for Pi Iota Omega chapter. And then after that was finished, I was on a virtual happy hour with my friend, State Senator Kevin Parker, who's running for a New York City office. And so appreciate the opportunity to share, but understand being on panels and being on virtual events, it's work. And I am just recuperating from last week. So if I'm dragging, it's because I'm trying to make sure that I always give my best and leave it all on the table, whether it's the podcast, whether it's a panel, whether it's a virtual happy hour. So today we're going to give you our best. And today, Chief, do you have any words of wisdom for the people before we jump into our topic?
No, I'm just listening to your panel rundown. Yeah. Your sorority, political, and everything else rundown. I'm totally lost, but whatever. Let's just go.
Do you have a message for the people?
No. I'm sure I'll come up with something during this episode, but no particular message.
To
start off this episode with. No, as you point to the show notes and tell me why do I not have a message? I just don't right now. No.
All right. So what are we talking about today?
Impact and influence.
Impact and influence. So what does impact mean to you?
It means a lot. It means, making a difference, hopefully good rather than bad. For it's simple to me. It's making a difference on whether it's, it's a cause or business or, someone to get that thing or person from point A to point B. And during that transition from A to B, hopefully it should be an improvement. So it should be making a positive impact.
Okay. And then what is influence to you?
I think that's so broad, especially in today's social media. People are like, I'm an influencer because I guess they have so many followers online. Yeah. And that's a whole nother thing where they look at it and say, I have 10, 20, 100,000, 1 million followers. Really, if you're referring to people who are, with you on social and you're just like followers, to me, I think you really missed the picture because it's more about building a community. And we just had this discussion in one of our team meetings yesterday with the media and marketing team. Would you rather have 20, 30,000 people following you? Or would you rather have whoever's following you now, 500 people, 1,100, 2,000? Or would you rather be super engaged and have a community of 2,000 to 15, 500, even 200 people versus having hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of people following you and you're an influencer? Because I rather have a community, right? Yes. Now you ask me, it's coming. The fire is coming. I'm getting salty. I'm bringing it to you. You shouldn't have poked the bear. Here it comes. You kicked the hornet's nest.
Why are you salty though?
Right, because we're talking about impact over influence. And when I think of impact, it's doing something to have a positive outcome, a positive influence on it, where I'm just an influencer, right? Which could be positive, don't get me wrong. But we're talking about how it's mainly used in this day and age.
Right.
And I just had this conversation with Sanders. Somebody could easily just be like, oh, I'll pay you X to put my product on your social. So you influence people to buy the product. But do you really believe in that product? Do you use that product? Do you know that like the true advantages of that product? Versus it's like salespeople. The salesperson who uses the product they sell, they believe in the brand, they believe in the product. When they talk to you about buying that product, they're not trying to sell you. They're connecting with you and they're sharing their experience with that product because they truly believe in it. Versus someone is just like, I got to sell this thing to get paid. They're going to tell you whatever, to a certain degree to make the sale.
Okay.
So to me, I look at the impact and influence as someone genuinely being involved in caring to make this positive change. When you talk about impact, where someone who's just you're saying, oh, you just want to influence to get a certain outcome. Whether you just want them to do it so you get whatever you get out of it, versus when you want to make an impact, you have some kind of deep moral connection. You want to do the right thing.
Oh,
so I might have went a little deep with that, but yeah.
Well, I think what you said set me up for a good segue in terms of the definition of influence versus the definition of impact.
It comes to blue screen.
So influence is defined as power or capacity of causing an effect in indirect or intangible ways, or swaying the results, or that is a person that exerts influence, something that brings out in a spiritual form or a moral form a result. Impact is defined as an impinging or striking, especially of one's body against another, or the force of impression of one thing on another, a significant major effect. So based on those definitions, there may not be a lot of clarity between what the difference is between the two. So I went to my other favorite resource, etymology, online, to see what is the when and how the words were originally used. So influence was originally used back in the 13th century. It comes from Latin or from Old French, and it's an emanation from the stars that acts upon one's character and destiny. So the original interpretation of the word influence is very astrological in meaning. It talks about an ethereal power from the stars when you're in a certain position. Don't laugh. Like,
I'm just listening to you. I know nothing about the stars, so I'm just going to listen. I can't comment on that one.
But the medieval Latin comes from the word influentia, a flowing in, which is also used in an astrological sense. If you want to look at the Middle English derivation of the word for influence, it's exertion of unseen influence by persons. That was first seen back in like the 1580s. And it's the capacity for producing effects by insensible or invisible means. So to me, when I think of influence, it's more abstract.
Okay.
If you're thinking about the stars and,
I can see it being more abstract. Especially if you relating it to what we just talked about with social, because it's more abstract. Where look at what I'm using.
But when we look at the etymology of the word impact, it comes from circa 1600, which means and it meant press closely into something. From the Latin word impactus, to push into, drive into, or strike against, and it's broken down into two separate word pieces. The first is into, in, on, or upon. And the second is pangere, which is to fix or to fasten. The original usage of the word impact was with respect to your teeth. So think of an impacted tooth.
Mm-hmm.
So you can feel it, right? It's in there. It hurts. It's exerting force in your mouth. And it goes on to say, it's to strike forcefully against something. Figuratively, as of early as the 1935s, the word impact was figuratively used to say to have a forceful effect on something. So just for clarification, we're not saying that impact is better than influence. Impact is worse than influence. They're very similar. At the same time, they're very different. And think about whether you want to make a more profound effect or if you want to have a more indirect effect. That speaks to the difference between impact and influence based on the dictionary and based on the etymology of those words.
Yeah, it seems to me it's just one is passive and one is more direct.
Got it. So with respect to someone having impact or influence, do you think that having an active social media presence contributes to someone's level of influence?
Having an active social media. Say that one. Having an active
Having an active social media presence contributes to someone's level of influence.
I guess, yeah. Like, because I'm more leaning to the impact versus the whole influence. But to answer your question, yeah, someone has an active social media profile. Are they having an influence? Yeah, I guess so. Depending on what they're posting and like what kind of content they're putting out there, and then who they're reaching, who they're trying to reach, their audience. But I'm sure they're having some level of influence because somebody's viewing it and it's having some, I guess, effect on them. But I don't know because when I hear the word influence or impact, like influence, like I'm trying to influence you to do something a certain way or a certain outcome. So just having an active social media profile doesn't mean that you're going to influence somebody to do something, depending on what you're putting out there. Like it's kind of complicated.
So if I hear what you're saying, the level of influence that you have based on your social media profiles and what you present is determined by the type of content you post, the type of people, as well as the number of people who are in your community and follow your profile, as well as people and organizations that might be affiliated with your community so that they also may see and be touched by what you post.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that face is saying
it's no but. It's just like, yeah. It's just it. Yeah. I'll leave it at yeah. They're having some type of influence, on the individuals who consume their content, who are viewing it. Depending on what they're posting or what they're talking about, it's a whole nother conversation. But I'm sure there's some level of influence going on. But I think of, are they really having an impact? You could see something in my feed and it has an influence on you, or a slight influence, or whatever, and you're just like, yeah, maybe I should get more efficient in my business. I don't know, something I posted that says something about being efficient, or maybe I should delegate more to my team. So it has a slight influence on you versus I post something that's very detailed or very descriptive, or it breaks down the strategy, and then you go do it, and then it changes something in your business for a positive or in the way you manage. To me, now I look at it, that had an impact because you looked at it and you did something and you got results from it. It was very, as your definition said, it was very direct. It was very forceful versus like, yeah, you should stop smoking. And then you're like, yeah, and I'm like, you could get sick, like you could get cancer, like that's not good for you. And you're like, yeah, whatever, puff puff, whatever. But the next time I see you, and I'm just like, yo, you need to stop smoking. And then I show you a picture of somebody who smoked, and like those commercials that come on where it shows people who were affected and they had to get like the surgery, or like something bad has happened to them. They had to get like a limb removed, or they had some type of cancer. And then they show them in a commercial, and then you're just like, whoa, like it's really impactful because it's like they use, what is it called, like the shock. It's like shock, and you're awed, and you're like, oh yeah, maybe I should stop smoking because I don't want to lose a limb or something like that. Yeah.
So in your role as an entrepreneur, how are you able to influence others?
I would say the biggest way you can influence, I will say impact again, is by example. Like that's it. Like by doing it, being a practitioner. So if you work at a business, like you have, a bakery.
No, talk about the business we have.
All right. So let's talk about the soapbox. So if I'm talking to someone about how to intake an order or how to do a delivery, if I've done it and I do it and show them how to do it by actual example, not just giving them a piece of paper or just sitting there in a room and be like, so when the orders come in, you press this button, this, by actually doing it with a customer or letting them pretend to be the customer, and I actually physically do it and show them. So then they see the proper way. Or when I'm there and the phone rings at the store and I answer the store and speak to a client the way that everyone else should answer the phone and speak to them. You're leading by example. You're modeling the behavior that you want, or modeling the way it should be done.
So then how do you, as an entrepreneur, how are you able to impact others?
So when I think of impact, I'm thinking what we said earlier, like making a definitive like change or help for like a cause or whatever it might be. So a good example, I would say how impact is what we're doing now on my website. The goal is to impact 1,000 small businesses in a positive way, whether it's through like a DM, a text, an email, or a phone conversation, or maybe like, face to face in the business and sitting down talking about where they are and where they want to be, like physically doing something or giving them the tools or information they need to get them from one point to another, having a direct impact on it, making a direct difference. Not just, you see me on TV. I'm not TV. Like I'm doing you see me on YouTube or on Instagram or on BronxNet, wherever, and it's just like, oh yeah, like they're small business owners, they're doing this. Like you hear people say they're a positive influence. Yeah, like okay,
we're talking about impact.
I know, but I'm just using it as the example where people say, I know of them or I see them. Like to me, the influence is like this high level, like it's the clouds thing. Like you see this person, but like when it's impactful, like we're
on the ground.
We're getting our hands dirty. Like you see, you getting the grit under your fingernails. Like we're there in the business. Oh, like let's do this. Like making an impact, finding out what's really going on, and then making it right. It's just like when the non-for-profits call and they want you to give a donation. They'd be like, your money could have a direct impact on this family because this much money feeds like they give you exact details to trigger you to be like, oh yeah, if I give $10, that feeds a family for a week. Like that's a direct impact versus they just call me and be like, if you make a donation, we could do a lot of good.
And just for clarity's sake, we are not poo-pooing on influencers or people who consider themselves influencers or people who choose to work with influencers. We work with influencers at the Soapbox.
Yeah, but I wouldn't really call them. I mean, technically on social they call them influencers, but like to me, we look at individuals. So here's that's a good example. So you're trying to
pull the words out.
Oh, I'm just trying to reel me in.
No, just trying to pull the words out.
So that's a good. I'm glad you brought it up. So when we talked about influencers earlier, and I kind of talked about like someone gets paid to say whatever or to show something or to demonstrate their product. So yes, we've worked with individuals who have small and large followings at the Soapbox on social. But those individuals are clients who it transitioned into, like they genuinely use our service. I can only think of one time where we engaged with someone who wasn't a client. And I was just like, it was good. It was good. It was good.
It looked good.
Right. But it didn't have the same feeling. It didn't have the same impact as someone who uses our service on a regular basis, and regular could be once a week, once a month, twice a week, whatever, but they have some frequency in which they use our service. And that led to us engaging into a business relationship around their social media and our laundry service. It didn't start with, ooh, I see this person posting, or I got an email, or I got on one of those platforms where it matches you up with influencers, and then I give them the product and then pay them. Actually, I take it back. We've done it twice. And both of those times I was just like, yeah, it was okay. But the relationships we have with clients who share their experiences on social and that we compensate them for that is totally different experience and a different impact than the other two times we did where it was just like to influence someone. So yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. That was interesting.
So if I understand what you're saying, that regardless of whether or not you want to have influence or you want to make an impact, relationship is important. That it's important to also be authentic.
I was going to say an authentic relationship is very important.
Yeah, that's the word. Authenticity is extremely important, and that the community will be able to detect if it's not truly authentic, and you'll get a better return where there are strong relationships with the user and user, regardless of whether or not they have a large following or a small following.
100%. Yeah, like, listen, I'm not against using influencers to grow your business.
This is not a influencer hater episode.
I'm not against it, but I'm just saying it as a small business owner. Let's be practical. I'm a small business owner, and there are influencers out there. And really, it's all over the place. If you contact someone who's an influencer or, a KOL, key opinion leader, whichever term you're using, right? The dollar range is all over the place. You could go to somebody and say, hey, like, I'm interested in, collaborating with you, and how much do you charge for a sponsored post? And they might tell you $30 because they don't get a lot. They don't get a lot of inquiries, and they're just like, whoa, somebody's going to pay me $30 to put something in my Instagram? Like, sure, I'll do it. And you're going to give me the product or whatever it is, or send me the content? Sure. Then there's somebody else you might approach, and they'd be like, yeah, I get $5,000 a post.
Right.
So as a small business owner, and small is relative, but when I say small, I'm thinking of the local shop in your neighborhood. They have maybe 1 or 2 locations, and they're grinding. And their marketing budget is probably very, very limited. So $5,000, $10,000 a post is like, what? That's more than some small businesses, several weeks worth of payroll, depending how many team members they have. So I'm looking at it from a small business perspective to say, how do I get the best impact from my money? And maybe it's not money. And that's why I say, like, you should really look at it, because people get hung up and say, oh, this person has 10, 15, 100,000 followers. If they do a post for me, my business is going to take off. I'm going to get all these orders. No, it does not mean that, because one, you don't know where their followers are based. Your business could be based in, I don't know, Williamsburg, but this person you connect with who happens to live in Brooklyn, and you want them to do a sponsored post for you, but the majority of their followers are in the UK because the type of content they post resonates with that population. Or their followers could be in Florida or Atlanta. Like, I look at my Instagram analytics, there's people following me in Atlanta, there's people in, Maryland, DC, there's people in New York also. So if I'm putting my feed, use a soapbox, you're going to get whatever, maybe a small percentage of people are going to respond. Because the other thing is, those people need to live in a neighborhood in which the soapbox services, which makes it even more micro.
Just get a product.
Right. It's a product that I could ship it to them, right?
There you go.
So, like, yeah. But if I look to develop a relationship with someone who's on social, who uses my product or service and has an authentic connection and enjoys using it, truthfully, I really don't care how many followers they have.
Right.
I care that they have a good impacting relationship with my product, and I'm willing to collaborate with them and say, you know what? You use my services twice a month. I see you're very active on social. You have 500 followers who are highly engaged. Would you like to do a collab? So whenever you use our service, you post about your experience, you create your own content about that experience and share it. And I'll give you a discount on our product. Or how about I'll do the service for you for free in exchange for that. Now, it still costs a small business something, because it costs you something to perform that service, but it's a lot cheaper and a lot more economical for that small business to render the service than to pay the person whatever it might be to do that social post, to talk about their product. And then it's genuine. The person you have the connection with, the influencer, they already use your product on a regular basis. And now you're striking up this business relationship with them. So when they put out that content, it's going to be even more authentic, because they're speaking from their experience over time with working with your business. Everyone that we've done that with, besides those 2 we spoke about, they are clients who've used us routinely. And they were posting about us at times before we even entered into that business relationship. So that business relationship just took what they were already doing to the next level.
As we wrap up this episode, I'm going to give you just my take on impact based on my experience. In 12 years in this role, I might not have what's considered to be the social media following of an influencer. However, people seek me out to participate in different initiatives that they have. And by showing up, by always having something wise to say, by listening and getting my fingers dirty, I've been able to help advance the initiatives that the different organizations in which I serve have been trying to help them achieve the results that they're trying to reach. And as a result, what I find is more people will come to me and say, oh, I know you're working with this organization. They told me about the great work. Do you mind working with this organization as well? And as long as I can maintain a balance in taking care of business first and foremost, and then serving or lending my voice to elevate conversations around things that are important to me, I've found that I can have a greater impact with those organizations.
Right.
And then depending on who else is involved in those organizations, that can lend itself to my influencing other areas and other things because people have seen the impact my participation has made. So I believe that impact and influence go hand in hand. And as a small business owner, it's not always just about what's happening in social. It is about what also happens in the dirt on the ground level. And when you get involved and you make a difference because of the work that you're doing, people will notice. And if the right people find out, you will be able to have impact and influence simultaneously. And I'm thinking, especially work that I've been doing for the last, let's say, 3 to 5 years, it's really starting to manifest now. And I get to work with some very high level executives, some very influential and affluent families, and the opportunities that I'm now exposed to that will help not only me personally, but help us professionally. And as we grow our businesses, it's more than I can have imagined because of 7 years ago, somebody asked me to do something. I raised my hand and I said that I would. And I've been consistent in doing that. I've shown up, I've been sincere, and now they see the difference. So that's my 2 cents on impact versus influence, or impact and influence. You can make an impact and you can be an influencer, and you can use it to your benefit to grow your small business. So start where you are, get busy, build a community, start with the community that you have, be consistent, use your data to understand who's in your community. And when it makes sense, partner with others who may have more influence than you have to get your message across. But at the end of the day, do it for good. Use your impact and your influence for good and not for evil, because it's not just about followers. It's about results.